Happy Friday. Welcome to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish. Get ready for an action-packed weekend. The Final Four coming up tomorrow night. Opening day for a lot of teams in Major League Baseball. Home openers across the board. The NBA playoffs is on deck. So about the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs. And, of course, next week the Masters begins. So, wow, do we have a fun month of April to deliver content to you. Great guests here on the show breaking it all down for you, including Paul Stone with the latest on college basketball's Final Four. Also, Sam McQuillan joins us from Legal Sports Report. We also have Andrew Cayley in the house to talk some college hoops, some NBA as well. And so get ready for a really big weekend of sports. Hopefully you enjoy it here on SportsGrid. But let's get started with our big sports betting story of the day. And it does include, yes, prediction markets yet again. The president's administration through the CFTC and Justice Department says that, well, prediction markets who are banned from operating in Arizona, Connecticut, and Illinois should be able to operate. And they're suing the states, Arizona, Connecticut, and Illinois. The CFTC says prediction markets are financial products, quote, event contracts. That makes their operation federally regulated and not subject to state gambling laws. The states, of course, say that this is the same thing as sports betting and they have to follow the rules. So back and forth we go with the government and the states. Should be an interesting close to the year of prediction markets as well. All right, Cade Cunningham of the Detroit Pistons. Let's get to him. Big story here, of course. The Pistons are hoping to get him back for the playoffs. That seems to be a little murky, at least for the first round. They gave an update yesterday saying that he's going to be out at least another week as he recovers from a collapsed lung and will be reevaluated. They're the number one seed in the Eastern Conference. So I guess the question becomes, can Detroit win their opening round series without Cade Cunningham if it comes to that? Because it would seem at the very least he's got to be questionable going into that. The playoffs begin in just about 2 weeks from now. Meanwhile, when the NBA playoffs begin, the favorite to win the championship, of course, it's the Oklahoma City Thunder. They win yesterday, my gosh, over the Lakers. Embarrassing. 139-96. SGA had 20 points, but the bigger story on this game had to be the exit of Luka Doncic, who's getting an MRI on his hamstring on Friday. Yikes, could he possibly miss time? Still to be determined. Let's get to the head coach, Mark Daigneault, on the Thunder's blowout win over the Lakers.
How did your team rate out on all those things just from the very outset of this game to be able to create the outcome that you did?
Yeah, obviously well. I thought Lou was really on it tonight. I thought Hart was really on it tonight. I thought Kaysen, when he came in the game, elevated our pressure. There was a make or miss element to the first half, especially. I thought they got good looks. The data would back that up. I mean, they had pretty good shots that they shot below expected, but I thought our energy on the offensive glass, our energy to run on the misses, and our pressure is what allowed us to capitalize on what was a poor shooting half for them.
You knew what to expect, obviously, with the way that they play. Is there a difference between, when you haven't seen a team that's capable of that level of ball pressure for a little while? Do you expect?
Sometimes it takes a little bit to get adjusted to, when you haven't played a team like that in a while. But we've had some teams that kind of put the pressure on you, not to that capacity to have so many. And they were still without AC as well. Another one of those pesky, wing defenders that can, heckle the ball. So, but they did a great job. Obviously, they're defending champs, and we expect them nonetheless. We didn't, combat that.
And LeBron will wait and see the results of this MRI with Luka Doncic to see if he has to carry this team in the playoffs yet again. All right, let's get to other team in the playoffs. Of course, the Pistons. They beat the Timberwolves. This kid Dennis Jenkins has been so good with the absence of Cade Cunningham. Pistons beat the T-Wolves 113-108. Julius Randle on the losing side had 27, but this was a really impressive win for Detroit against a good team without Cunningham. That's what head coach J.B. Bickerstaff said impressed his team.
Back and forth this one was. How impressed are you now sitting back on what your guys were able to just do?
Yeah, it was a tough one for us, to be honest with you. Didn't start out the way we would have liked. A lot of turnovers in that first half. First quarter we gave up some things we didn't want to give up, but again, I give our guys credit. They just seem to figure out a way. And typically it starts with our defense, but then we have guys just step up. DJ was awesome tonight down the stretch. Obviously the pressure that JD put on people, but, it's collective. And so many guys contributed. Like AT was unbelievably defensively. So we had so many guys contribute, which is typical of this team.
I remember yesterday we heard from JB Bickerstaff, not as positive as he was there. Meanwhile, it was a little bit of a fishy line, I thought, yesterday with the Spurs being favored on the show yesterday. I remember looking at them as 2.5, going, what in the world was this? And the reason why was Victor Wembanyama didn't play yesterday. Guess what? It didn't matter. Spurs win 118-99, led by De'Aaron Fox. He had 22 points. The Spurs just keep on winning 11 straight games. And Dylan Harper, who had 19 points off the bench, said, even without Wemby, it's just next man up.
You know, you're playing a team tonight where you might see them in the first round of the playoffs. You're playing them without Vic, and you beat them by 20-something. Do you feel like that makes some sort of statement to somebody?
I mean, yeah, definitely. I think for us going in this game, obviously Vic was out, so just next man up mentality. But, you know, making a statement on the game and just all of us being connected and just have that same fire as we had all year. So coming off the back-to-back, you know, we didn't want to show no kind of, not remorse, but we didn't want to show kind of a weakness and just coming out here and playing our game.
Meanwhile, the playing games, yes, that's been all about the Hornets. They are like playing with their food, so to speak, blowing out everyone in their path. They beat the Suns by 20 yesterday. They were 5.5-point favorites. Con Knuppel passed Kemba Walker for most made threes in a season as a Hornet. He's the overwhelming favorite to win Rookie of the Year. 23 points yesterday, and after the game, he spoke about breaking the Hornets' long-time three-point record.
Talking about you individually breaking the franchise single-season record for threes. I know you're not huge on sort of the individual accolades, but is there any way you can kind of at least process what the season you've had means to you, and especially in the context of how successful the team has been this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think, thanks, Mikhail. No, I think especially with the team success, it's been real fun to, you know, enjoy some of that individual success as well. You know, really turning this thing around and having the season we're having, really feeling the love from the fans, you know, has been great and has in turn, encouraged us and helped us play better basketball.
All right, from the NBA to Major League Baseball, you don't often see a 19-year-old player make his debut and get $140 million in the process, but that's the case today in Pittsburgh. They'll open up at PNC Park. Connor Griffin signs a deal to get himself in that uniform. That's kind of what it came down to. 9 years, $140 million. He'll bat 7th for the Pirates later on this afternoon. The Braves score 17 runs in their rout of the Diamondbacks. Matt Olson hit his first home run of the season. And also Reynaldo Lopez picked up the win. The Mets offense having all kinds of trouble. They lost to the Giants yesterday, 7-2. Bo Bichette did go 1 for 4, so at least he got a hit. But what's up with the struggling offense on the Mets? Here's Bichette on that.
Overall, as an offense right now, what are you seeing from the team?
I mean, I think we've faced some pretty good pitchers recently, but there are pitchers that have, pitched well. That's part of it, but I think for the most part, guys are having good at-bats, and maybe the contact is just not where we need it.
Twins beat the Royals 5-1. KC held an early lead in this one. Cole Reagans did his job. 6 innings pitched, 1 run, 8 strikeouts, but the Twins ended up coming back thanks to Matt Wallner and Josh Bell hitting home runs in that game. Also, today is the opener at home for a lot of teams in Major League Baseball. Yankees, Pirates, Nationals, Red Sox, White Sox, Rockies, Angels, Rangers, Tigers, A's, Twins, and Guardians. So plenty to go here with the baseball season and teams playing for their first time at home. Pretty cool here. All right, we'll take a quick time out here on NewsWire on SportsGrid. When we come back next, it's time to bring in Paul Stone for the latest on college basketball's Final Four. We'll be right back.
Can't make the World Cup. That's wildly embarrassing.
You know, Italy, to me, I think they're like the Cowboys, right? They're the Dallas Cowboys, basically. They're this ultimate sort of public team, big merch, monsters.
That's a good one.
Yet they really haven't won in a while. But we're talking about a world superpower.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
As a former pitcher who thought the umpires were wrong far more than people let on, I like the ABS system. But you're going to have problems because umpires are going to start having issue with the fact that they're being called out. Well, here's the thing. Umpires are now going to be treated like players. They're going to get publicly embarrassed when they make mistakes in front of the fans.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio. Only on SportsGrid.
There's a basketball player who's 7'9". He's insignificant on his team. And quite frankly, I don't know if he goes Division 1, 2, or 3 at this point and will be significant. Joe, how can you be 7'9" and not be able to get on the court in college basketball? Shouldn't he be maybe, I don't know, the most dominant shot blocker in the history? I watched Manu Bol be a really good player at times in the NBA.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
We're proud of this class. This is the weakest Hall of Fame class in the history of the Basketball Hall of Fame. This is an embarrassment to the men and women that are deservingly in that Hall of Fame. And the dead ones are rolling over in their grave right now saying, get this basketball out of my gravesite because I don't want to be associated.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish, joined by Paul Stone of Paul Stone Sports. And naturally, Paul is looking at all of these different options in college basketball today. Great to bring back Paul here on the show. Paul, I do want to ask you about the Final Four. But before I do that, I wonder just a bigger landscape type question for you here, where, certainly we do have a 3 seed. We have Illinois in the Final Four. A few years ago, we were getting some very strange teams in. Florida Gulf Coast made a run. FAU in my neck of the woods made a run too. 8s, 9 seeds. And, credit to Iowa because they did make a nice run. But, Paul, that was about it for this year's NCAA tournament. A High Point win and a Iowa win as well kind of put them in Cinderella's slipper. But that was about it. Do you think that's kind of where we're headed in the future with this?
Yeah, I go back to last year. Robert Morris made the tournament school there out of Pittsburgh, and they had the opportunity to return all 5 players. They all 5 had eligibility remaining, but none of the 5 returned to Robert Morris. So they got 0 of those players back that helped them make the tournament last year, carrying over to this year. So it's just a case of the rich getting richer, the poor getting poor. Clearly, something needs to be done to rein in the current NIL landscape and how it's just kind of the wild, wild west, and you pay what you want to, and there's no quote unquote salary cap.
Sure.
I think there's going to be something done. I think it's going to take time. It's so complicated. But we grew up, Florida Atlantic making a run, going further back, George Mason, VCU and Shaka Smart, I think back in 2011. Sure. That's what we love about the tournament. So hopefully, I don't know if we can put the genie all the way back in the bottle, but hopefully we can rein it in a little bit and create an environment where the little guy at least has some opportunity to compete and perhaps advance in this historic tournament.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. And I don't know if it's fortunate or unfortunate, but the tournament's doing crazy numbers streaming and watching. And so it's probably no need if you're in the NCAA. They look at it and say, okay, well, this is what we wanted anyway, and we got it. Okay, so we got a really fun matchup here, the first of 2 games, because you have the emotion of Connecticut getting to the Final Four with that wild win last weekend against Duke. But the odds makers are certainly telling us that they are not the better team in this matchup overall, because Illinois is 2.5-point favorites. And also keep in mind, folks, for novices, neutral site game, regardless of the fans that show up here, neutral site, Illinois -2.5, total 139.5. Odds makers are telling us, Paul, we're in for 2 really close games on Saturday. Let's start with the first one.
Yeah, we're showing 2.5 here, and I'm not sure where that's coming from, but a lot of even 1.5 on the screen right now as we speak on Friday. So it is pretty much an even game, and the talk of the tournament from last weekend, UConn rallying from that 19-point first half deficit to just stun Duke 73-72 on Braylon Mullen's desperation attempt from 35 feet in the waning seconds. In that game, it's been well chronicled, but UConn only makes one of their first 18 three-pointers, closes by making 4 of their last 5, including Mullen's game winner. And this one, to me, is going to come down to Terrace Reed Jr. for UConn versus Illinois' front line. And Mullen's three-pointer at the buzzer, that's going to go down as it should. It's going to be forever etched in UConn men's basketball lore. But make no mistake about it, if it wasn't for the inside work of Terrace Reed Jr., UConn would not have been in the position to make any type of comeback against Duke. He finishes that game with big numbers against the Blue Devils. If I can find it here in my notes, 26 points and 9 rebounds against the Blue Devils. 6'11", 265-pound senior from St. Louis, just a bruiser down low. He's hit 33 of 55 field goal attempts, so 60% in the tournament. He's gone to the line 29 times, so he gets to the foul line. 54 rebounds rather. 27 of those boards coming in that first round game against Furman. So he's just been a beast down low. But Illinois is well equipped to defend him and perhaps neutralize him much better than most teams are. They've got the Ivasic twins, 7'2" and 7'1" from Croatia, who are obviously over 7 foot tall, very big guys. They've got 6'9" David Merkovic. So I think it comes down to how does Illinois, with their big front line, how do they deal with Reed? If Reed scores under 20, I think Illinois has got a really good chance to win. If Reed goes over 20, I think UConn might advance to that championship game. So that's the matchup I'm kind of going to be looking at is Terrace Reed Jr. versus Illinois' front line.
Excellent stuff there. Okay, so the main course Saturday night, Paul, Michigan, Arizona. Best game of the year on paper here, right? Like odds makers are telling us about a pick'em game and a high scoring game at 157.5. I think the world will be watching this one, Paul. I think this is going to maybe even get higher ratings than the championship on Monday night. You talk about a Saturday night game with these two huge schools playing. Are you looking forward to this one like I am?
Absolutely. I mean, it's a huge game, and although it's kind of been labeled as the champion, quote unquote, the championship game, Illinois or UConn might have something to say about that. But these are two teams that have phenomenal front lines. You look at Arizona; they're not only tall, but they're big. And Koa Pete is a true freshman from the state of Arizona. He's built nothing like a guy just 1 year out of his high school graduation. He is a grown man already. You've got Krivas, another big guy on that Arizona front line, also Toby Awaka. So Arizona depends on that front line. They are 5th nationally in paint points, over 41 paint points a game. But then you've got Michigan's front line. They've got Yaxel Lindeborg, Morez Johnson Jr., and then Ade Mara, the 7'4" transfer from UCLA. So I think it comes down to these two front lines. How do they match up against one another? You know, which one wins that battle? And if it's a push, then it comes down to guard play. Well, Arizona's Braden Burries or perhaps Jaden Bradley come up big from the guard position. Then Michigan, Troy McKinney and Elliot Cadeau, 2 of their top guard scorers. So it's going to be interesting to see if those front lines are going to be a wash or if somebody wins that battle down low between Arizona and Michigan.
Paul, as always, great to catch up with you. And before you know it, we'll be doing some college football. Thanks again.
Thank you.
We'll have Sam McQuillan from Legal Sports Report coming up in just a few minutes. Before we do that, let's hear from some sound going on in baseball and basketball. Give you some previews of the Final Four as well. Let's start off with some baseball here. In case you missed it yesterday, and I know a lot of you did, the Twins played the Royals. But one of the other stories that percolated from the game yesterday was the fact that their starting catcher, Carter Jensen, on Kansas City, was not at the game in time for the game. There were some reports that he overslept. They had planned to start him and had to pivot to another player. Naturally, this does not happen very often in Major League Baseball. So one of the team leaders on the Royals, Vinny Pasquantino, was asked about his missing catcher prior to the game.
Just gotta move forward the best that he can. I know he feels really bad. I know that it was not his favorite drive to the field this morning, but it wasn't our favorite morning either. Trying to figure out what was going on. So, he'll learn from it and grow up a little bit. And, we're here for him though. It's not like anybody's, mad at him. Things happen, but you got to learn from mistakes like that and maybe get another alarm clock or something at home.
Yeah, rough scene there for Jensen. Not the first time that this has happened, but something that unfortunately goes on the resume for the rest of his career. All right, would Dan Hurley like a championship resume? Of course he would. He'll go into Saturday night hoping that they could beat Illinois and get back to the championship game. Of course, that's the goal for Hurley. A lot of folks think that the winner of that game between the Huskies and Illini lose in the championship regardless, but that is not the plan, according to Hurley.
Like, the reality is that moment's over. It's an incredible moment. You'll have that the rest of your life. But we came here for rings, not watches. Everyone that comes to the Final Four gets a beautiful watch. But only one group's going to get a ring. So get off social media, stop injecting the dopamine into your arm, and get serious about the preparation and the practice, because we don't hang banners for Final Fours at UConn. We hang national championship banners, and if you want to hang a banner, you got to get your eyes off social media, get your face out of the phone, and get locked in on Illinois, because Illinois is one of the best teams in the country, and they're as big a threat to winning this tournament as any of the four teams.
I just realized you get a watch for going to the Final Four. I had no idea. Okay, cool. Meanwhile, how about the journey for Illinois? They are one of the lower seeds getting this far this year in the NCAA tournament, and they're the 3 seed in the NCAA.
I think it was fun after winning the region to sit back and just think a little bit. I hope to get to do that, in the future after all of this is over. But I think one of the really neat things for me has been that all the stops along the way, some of the people that have reached out, and the old friends and the old acquaintances, and the people that are coming from all those stops has just been, it means a lot to me. And I say it all the time. I hope I'm not known for wins and losses. I hope I'm known for impacting some lives of people and creating memories. And that's what that's come to fruition a little bit with some of the texts and phone calls I've gotten here in the last few days.
All right. Meanwhile, the night game, Arizona takes on Michigan. Will this be the final game coached by Tommy Lloyd with Arizona? There's some rumors he could end up at North Carolina. Obviously, yesterday, not willing to dive into that.
For that job, how do you respond to people who are wondering if you're going to be the coach at Arizona next year?
Listen, I got my full focus on this team. Nothing is distracting me, and that's just how I've decided to approach it. I'm excited. I thought we had a really good practice today. I'm excited to plan for a practice tomorrow. And Myron, you've got to know me over the years. I'm a simple guy. I'm kind of just one thing at a time. I'm not a multitasker. You can ask my wife. So I'm 100% locked in on Arizona basketball right now, and I'm excited to see what this team can do. I have a real strong belief in this team, and this team deserves my full attention, so that's what I'm giving them.
Meanwhile, Dusty May weighed in on Michigan's ability to beat Arizona Saturday.
Well, we feel like we're built in a similar fashion as Arizona, and I'll begin with the veterans on both teams and how they've taken this off the bench role, and they've impacted winning almost every game. I just see so many similarities with the intangibles and the team character of both of us, and then obviously when you factor in the size, and both teams get a lot of credit for how good our front lines are. But there's some great guards and very intelligent basketball being played by both teams. And so when we watch them, we see ourselves, other than a few stylistic differences, we see a lot of ourselves in them. And it's going to be a battle. We believe it's going to be won in the 39th or 40th minute of this game.
Discussion in March was, oh, this ABS is ruining everything. There's challenges in the second inning and the third inning. And yes, for CB Buckner, that has been the case. But for every other umpire in Major League Baseball, what you're seeing, Donnie, is exactly what you said. This is going to normalize. We did see a lot of success in the first couple of days of the season.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
I think there's an opportunity down the board. I think Pete Alonso likely has some new life. And what about your boy Schwarber here? We know,
come on,
up at the top, he's going to have enough at bats and enough pitches to do it. Sounds like he's got 40 to 50 home runs. I don't even think working really hard this year.
Prediction Markets Edge, only on SportsGrid.
So much to get into.
So much to get into, so little time. Listen, this is a time of year where it's great basketball. Teams that have to be at their best, some teams at their best for 40 minutes, some teams at their best for 36 minutes. But at the end of the day, you got to play your best 40. Otherwise, you're going home like we saw over the last couple of days.
College Basketball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Urging them to stop offering these certain sports-related contracts it believes are especially ripe for manipulation. These are markets like what is someone on the broadcast going to say during the game, which you can bet on. It's called mention markets, which could be anything like Tom Brady saying, "Oh, I think that they're going to run an RPO."
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to SportsGrid. This is NewsWire each and every day right here, streaming throughout the day on our network. And we always are joined by Sam McQuillan on Fridays to go over the landscape of sports betting and prediction markets as well. Sam, welcome back to the show. Great to have you here on this Friday. And let's start off with one of the few states that we're looking forward to actually getting legalized sports betting, and that would be California. Is it possible that the Gaming Association and the tribes get back to this? I thought we made some progress several years ago with all of the ads for and against. That didn't happen. Is California the next big state to legalize sports betting?
Yeah, well, there's only really three big states left that haven't legalized sports betting, which is California, Texas, and Georgia. Texas and Georgia aren't getting close anytime soon, which is why, to answer your question, Craig, I would say California could possibly be the next big one. It's kind of crazy to think about that it was already 6 years ago that you had those ballot propositions you alluded to, the Prop 27 and Prop 26, which were two competing measures, one from the tribal Indian gaming associations that have a lot of influence in the state, and the other from sports books like FanDuel and DraftKings and BetMGM. It was actually the most expensive ballot proposition in U.S. history. There was over $400 million spent on it, and it just got about like 16% of the vote each. So it really failed miserably. The story in California has essentially been tribes have all this lobbying power, and if they don't want sports betting done on their own terms, rather, it's not going to happen. But it seems like that might finally be changing, which the sports betting industry, a lot of it has been very vocal against prediction markets. They might actually have prediction markets to thank for this, because James Siva, who is the chair of the California Nation's Indian Gaming Association, came out this week at a conference and said basically because prediction markets are now offering sports betting in the state, eating into the tax revenue that the tribes would have gotten if they had cut a deal and allowed sports betting in the first place. They're now much more incentivized to actually get sports betting done. Talking about how they could try to propose something to put on the ballot in 2028, which is only the next time that a ballot proposition like this can pass in California. So unfortunately, it wouldn't be this November. It wouldn't be next November. It would be about 2 years from now that something finally gets on the ballot. Now, again, a lot can change in 2 years. Just a year ago, we didn't even really have sports prediction markets. And we were talking about the sports betting companies working with the tribes to come to some agreement where the tribes got most of the revenue and an operator like FanDuel or BetMGM would partner with them. That's kind of out the window now, from what I understand, now that FanDuel and DraftKings have gotten in prediction markets of their own. So it'll be really interesting to see what actually the tribes propose. But again, it's 2 years from now where this could possibly happen. So a lot can change from now till then. But it is pretty big news that the tribes are finally saying, okay, I think we're going to finally try to get sports betting done this time around. But again, anything can happen, Len, so we'll have to see what changes.
All right, let's get to next story, which you could read over at legalsportsreport.com. This is about the state of Kentucky undergoing some potential changes here, age changes I did see involved here, and also maybe some sports books not operating as they're currently operating now. I'll need you to dissect this one for me, Sam. What's going on here in Kentucky?
Yeah, Kentucky is one of those states that has had sports betting for a couple of years now, but now they're passing bills to try to change it and tweak the law, which kind of all states have been doing over the past couple of years rather than just having sports betting and leaving it alone. But this bill that passed just this Wednesday in both chambers, so it heads to the governor next, it would raise the betting age in Kentucky from 18 to 21, which is consistent with the betting ages in most other states. I think only a couple other states have an 18 years old betting age. So that's big news. And it would also codify and regulate the fantasy sports industry. Kentucky is one of those states which doesn't really have a clear fantasy sports regulation or a law. It's kind of just a place where fantasy sports operators like Prize Picks and Underdog have been operating without really much of a framework to govern them. So that would seemingly govern them. And then it would also, interestingly enough, bet under props, player props in college sports. So, if we're talking about March Madness and you're betting on, Cam Boozer to score over 20.5 points, you could still bet on his over, but you couldn't bet on the under, which, is no surprise. It's kind of a response to all of the worrying we've been seeing about, game integrity or these scandals that have popped up in colleges. And then the last part of the bill is really important as well. It would prevent a licensed Kentucky sports betting operator or fantasy sports operator from contracting with a prediction market to do business in Kentucky. It's kind of a change from what the bill originally was proposed, which would be if you run a prediction market anywhere, you wouldn't be able to offer sports betting in Kentucky. Obviously, FanDuel and DraftKings have their own prediction markets. Underdog has one now as well. Fanatics, I believe other sports betting companies are trying to move into that space. And they don't want to lose their licenses in Kentucky, which they've worked years to get and spent tons of money on. So it's interesting to note that this bill would now kind of only penalize them if they operated one in Kentucky, as opposed to previously when it was if you had a prediction market in any state, anywhere, that could impact your license. So it's good for those operators that I'm sure the FanDuels of the world and DraftKings of the world will just not offer prediction markets in the state. But those other changes, I hope it's something that other states kind of look to as well as some kind of common sense measures, whether it's 21-year-old gambling age or getting rid of the unders on some of these problematic props, which I think has been something we've talked about for a long time now, but would expect the governor likely to sign this bill, go into law this summer, and then all those changes take effect.
So, Sam, there's a company called Optimove, I suppose, that's watching the amount of deposits that are being made for sports bettors. And so I'm seeing this report here that you guys are reporting on the lack of new depositors during March Madness that are betting on sports. And so I'm not sure the answer to this. So that's why we have you here, is to tell us whether this is just simply because everybody who bets on sports has an account already, or is it due to prediction markets being involved in this and some people pivoting over to that? But why should we be surprised, I guess, at all? If no new markets are legalizing sports betting, anybody who wants to bet probably already has an account.
Yeah, I think it's a great takeaway, Craig. The only caveat that I would add to that is obviously more people turn 18 or more people turn 21 every year. So there's always the opportunity to grab these new bettors. But to your point, kind of everyone who is going to bet has already bet. So unless you just turned 18 or 21 during March Madness and you're an interested sports bettor, you're probably already signed up. We're kind of gone from those days where sports books were doubling and tripling their new user base like every quarter because you had new states going online. Now you have 37 states where sports betting has been legal. So it comes to a point where you run out of states you're adding every year. But the important takeaway here, I think, from the survey, which showed that just 3% of all betting activity on March Madness so far has come from these new bettors, these first-time depositors. I think the important takeaway for sports books is how they view that and how they kind of pivot their marketing strategy and their acquisition strategy and their promotion strategy around this. Spend less money on these new sign-up offers. Often in the past, these events like March Madness, where people are doing brackets, people who might not normally bet, get involved in an office pool, something like that. That's been an opportunity for these sports books to then bring in these kind of casual, maybe hesitant people on the side and usher them in, get them signed up for a sports book. But the fact that that's only 3% of activity this year, I think really shows that sports books might be better served spending their dollars on retaining customers on their own platforms as opposed to attracting new ones. Personalized promotions tailored towards the bettor. If you bet a certain way, things that reward you when you lose or succeed. We talked about, I think, pretty recently this past NFL season, how FanDuel really struggled with not giving promos back to bettors when FanDuel won a lot. It said it kind of lost a lot of activity because of that. So I think this is just kind of another symptom of where we are in the stage of legalization and 37 states later. But definitely interesting for the sports books to think about as, they kind of pivot their marketing strategy and roll towards the rest of March Madness here now.
Well, Sam, enjoy the rest of March Madness. We'll see you again next week. Thanks for coming on NewsWire.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Craig. You too.
All right, full look at the evening card in baseball with Andrew Cayley up next. Discussion in March was, this ABS is ruining everything. There's challenges in the second inning and the third inning. And yes, for CB Buckner, that has been the case. But for every other umpire in Major League Baseball, what you're seeing, Donnie, is exactly what you said. This is going to normalize. We did see a lot of success in the first couple of days of the season.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
I think there's an opportunity down the board. I think Pete Alonso likely has some new life. And what about your boy Schwarber here? We know,
come on,
up at the top, he's going to have enough at bats and enough pitches to do it. Sounds like he's got 40 to 50 home runs. I don't even think working really hard this year.
Prediction Markets Edge, only on SportsGrid.
So much to get into.
So much to get into. There's so little time. Listen, this is a time of year where it's great basketball. Teams that have to be at their best. Some teams at their best for 40 minutes. Some teams at their best for 36 minutes. But at the end of the day, you got to play your best 40. Otherwise, you're going home like we saw over the last couple of days.
College Basketball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Urging them to stop offering these certain sports-related contracts it believes are especially ripe for manipulation. These are markets like what is someone on the broadcast going to say during the game, which you can bet on. It's called mention markets, which could be anything like Tom Brady saying, I think that they're going to run an RPO.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on Sports Grid. It's home openers for a lot of teams in Major League Baseball, but some evening games on the slate as well. Let's bring in Andrew Cayley of Covers to break those all down for us. Andrew, thank you for coming on NewsWire, giving us some time here on this Friday, and let's get started. 7:40 p.m. Eastern. Boy, the Kansas City Royals are certainly hoping that these fences in are going to bring some runs. It didn't happen yesterday. They just put a single run on the board yesterday. Today they play the red-hot Brewers, best record in the National League, tied with Miami. They have Patrick on the mound against Waka. Michael Waka, certainly no stranger to starts, home starts, big totals, 9 I'm seeing here on the board today. And I'm guessing this is predominantly because of the Blue Jays. Andrew, do you have any lean on this affair tonight?
I think I'm still going to wait and see how this stadium plays out. I think we're seeing a bit of these walls being pulled in, being priced into this number a little bit. Obviously, the Brewers are hitting the ball really well. And I think we're kind of still expecting this young Kansas City lineup to do what we've been expecting. Like you said, just one run yesterday, and they haven't been hitting the ball overly well. But with Vinny Pasquantino and all the other young guys in that lineup, they're expecting good things in Kansas City this year. So hopefully that starts tonight for them. But for this game in general, I think I don't have a huge lean on this one either way. But I'm going to be seeing how that park plays. And I'm seeing Avila getting the call for the Royals here right now. They must have done a switch there. So I'm gonna. That's another reason to stay away from it at this point. If it was Waka, I'd be a little more confident in a side, but maybe under, because I think we're getting that elevated total. But it's gonna be fun to watch how that ballpark plays out there in Kansas City now.
Yeah, definitely interesting here. I got to check my my pictures here to be sure I give you the right information. All right, 9:38 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to pull this up too as we're doing it just to be sure. We got the Mariners and the Angels, and the right pictures I have here for you for sure. All right, so it's Brian Wu against Reed Detmers. Detmers last time out had a big strikeout prop go over. I noticed that. Wu is probably the better pitcher of the two here, and that's why Seattle's minus 162. Total of 8 in this game. Maybe Detmers' start with those 9Ks more of a product of facing Houston, who does whiff quite a bit. Any lean on this game tonight?
I actually like this game a lot. First of all, Detmers, he has some really good stuff, and he's going to give the Angels a good shot in this one, but I don't have much faith in their bullpen. Brian Wu has obviously coming off a really strong season, and he has some really good numbers against a lot of this Angels lineup from seeing them for many years. So I actually like the Mariners here on the run line at plus 105. I like getting I like slight favorites getting slight plus money on the run line when they're playing on the road, because you guarantee that 9th at bat. And I just think this Seattle team, another team that hasn't really hit so wonderfully at this point, but you know that the talent is in that lineup, and you're kind of just waiting for them to break out at some point. And a team that they can break out against is definitely the Angels. Another play I really like in this game, I'm taking Mike Trout to go hitless in this game. You can go under 0.5 hits at about plus 150. He is a career 0-for-8 against Brian Wu with 6 Ks and a 53.8% whiff percentage. So he just doesn't see the ball well. Like, there's just guys like that. Baseball's a weird game like that, where there's just guys you just don't read the ball very well out of their hands, and Wu seems to be one of those guys for Mike Trout. And you're getting a big number like this because of Mike Trout's name and basically not much else.
All right, I like it there. 9:40 p.m. Eastern. Boy, all the love for the A's has gone out the window in the early start of their season. Oh, we're signing all these young guys, and we're going to play for the future here. My gosh, 1-5 out of the gate. The good news, I guess, for them is they have Jeffrey Springs, but I mean, Houston, the far superior team going into the matchup. Game, of course, in Sacramento is always total of 10, so could be a high-scoring game. And Christian Javier definitely looking for a better start than he had his first time out.
Christian Javier is that guy who just kind of like gives us a taste of what he can be, and he never kind of realizes that full potential. I know there was a couple years ago where he was, I think, a leader in the American League when it came to strikeout rate. Obviously, that's changed the way he's pitched since a few injuries. but I still think he has potential against this A's lineup. Like you said, they're very young, and there's some talent there, obviously led by like guys like Nick Kurtz, but they are swinging for the fences, and swinging for the fences means a lot of strikeouts. They're striking out like 35% of their their plate appearances right now, which is an absurdly high number. I don't hate Javier over his strikeout prop of 4.5. I like the Astros to win this one. This is a really good -110 for the Astros basically in this game. I think that's a really good price on them. They're playing very well coming off the sweep of Boston, and that's been fueled by Yordan Alvarez looking like Yordan from 2024 and before. Like, obviously injuries were a big issue for him. I like him to get an RBI tonight. I was just looking at his MVP odds too earlier. He's 28-1 to win American League MVP, and I don't hate that at all. So I think Alvarez stays hot. I think that Astros lineup stays hot, and I like them in this matchup.
All right, you also see Andrew there likes Juan Soto tonight against Tyler Mahle. That's a 10:15 p.m. Eastern game. Nolan McLean and the Mets travel to the Giants. Mets eventually are going to start hitting, right, Andrew? I mean, it's inevitable, right?
Yeah, I'm a Toronto guy, so it's you kind of just look at Bo Bichette and you're like, what? I guess you're just, hey, it's too bad. But Juan Soto is a guy who's still getting mispriced from. He's one of the guys who's actually off to a solid start, 3.33 average and 8.94 OPS, and he has really good numbers against Mahle in the past. He's 4 for 11 with a double and 2 dingers. I think RBIs are one of the most mispriced markets in baseball betting these days, and to get a price like this on a player this good in a matchup this good for him, I think that's too good to pass up. I'm staying away from the Mets on money lines and stuff like that right now because, like you said, they have stuff to. They're the Mets, right?
Easiest way to put it, for sure. All right, Andrew, enjoy the late evening slate. Thanks again for coming on NewsWire. We'll catch up again soon.
Thanks, guys.
All right, as we mentioned, by the way, Connor Griffin making his Major League debut later this afternoon. He's batting 7th today for the Pittsburgh Pirates. All right, we'll come back next. We'll wrap it up with some last licks and close out our Friday for the week. Don't go away. You're watching NewsWire on SportsGrid. All right, welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. It was interesting. I was on with Kevin Walsh on Game Time Decisions yesterday. I'm doing a really good job on his show predicting stuff, Chris. I don't know if you've noticed this, but yesterday he had me on the show and we were talking about Connor Griffin. And there was there was some reports that they were talking about a deal, but nothing close, right? So he asked me if this was a product of him just getting the call up or a deal. And I was like, I would not be surprised before he plays tomorrow for them to announce a deal. Why are all these contracts being signed, folks? Yes, the players are talented. Yes, they are deserving of it, but it's such goodwill to hand out these buyout arbitration contracts for these young players this time of the year, right before opening day, to get all their fans excited. And notice, right before the Pirates home opener, not before opening day, before their home opener, it's a setup. It's fun. It's fun to see this happening. All right, let's wrap up the show with some fun stuff here. We'll get into it, especially the Atlanta Falcons, who can't win a playoff game, but definitely can change a uniform or two. Time now for some last licks. So apparently the Falcons haven't been in the playoffs, am I right about this, for 6 years, and they've changed their uniforms twice. 2 uniform changes, no playoff appearances. Okay, congrats. They're going back to the old school. Maybe this will change it. With Tua as their backup and Penix as their starter. I don't know. I'm not buying it. Red home jerseys, white road jerseys, and the throwback uniforms with that red helmet and black jerseys are going to stay. That's the good news for the Atlanta Falcons. But doesn't this feel like a franchise in neutral, right? Like, doesn't it feel like the Falcons are always the Falcons? The Bucks are up one year and then they're down the next. The Panthers are down one year and then they're up the next. And the Falcons are just kind of like just staying in neutral in that division. I don't know. I don't get the sense that anything great is happening for them. But yeah, I mean, people love the old school stuff, but were the Falcons even really great in those old school uniforms? When you think about that, in the 80s, they weren't really good then either. So I don't know. Great. They have a beautiful stadium, seemingly trying. They spend money, but nothing works out for them. Okay, nothing has worked out lately for our next subject. That is, yes, that guy, Trevor Bauer. A few years ago, I thought Trevor Bauer would pitch again in Major League Baseball. It seemed like every league he was in, he was dominating. He was pitching well overseas, Mexican League, etc. Last year, it did not go well for him overseas. In fact, he was, I guess, statistically one of the worst pitchers overseas pitching. I believe it was in Japan or the KBO. And it really looks like it's coming to an end, unfortunately for him, because now he is signed with the Long Island Ducks of the Independent League. Yikes, that's kind of the mighty falling there. And look, he does good content and he posts fun stuff on social media. Yes, that's true. But his career sort of derailed with a lot of off-the-field stuff, which I'm not going to get into. You guys can look it all up. And it seems like everybody has a strong opinion one way or the other. Bottom line is, if the guy is not pitching well overseas, he's not going to get a big league contract, not going to get a minor league contract. And now he's going to play for the Long Island Ducks. He signed a 5-game contract with the Diablos of Mexico City last year. And then he ended up staying. He was the Mexican Baseball League's Pitcher of the Year in 2024. He was great, like I said, 23 and 24, but 25, it did not go well. Good luck to Trevor Bauer with the Long Island Ducks. I will not be seeing those games. All right, finally, the Texas Rangers have food you can wear on your head. That's right, nachos. Check out the 9th inning rally sombrero at Globe Life Field this season. It's a nacho rally sombrero with chips and cheese and lettuce and jalapenos, pico de gallo, guacamole, and more. Food that you can wear on your head. So even if the Rangers lose, they blow it in the 9th inning, at least you got a sombrero with food to show for it. That'll do it for the show today. Those of you who are celebrating Good Friday and Easter or even Passover, I hope you guys have happy holidays this weekend. Whatever you are celebrating, I hope you certainly enjoy it with your family. Thanks again to our guest, Paul Stone, Sam McQuillan from Legal Sports Report, and also thanks to Andrew Cayley for breaking down all of the Major League Baseball slate as well. As a reminder, we have our Pro Baseball Today show, which is each and every Sunday morning, which sort of takes a look back at the week that was and previews the week ahead. You can catch me on that show Sundays in the morning and the afternoon. And for more information about our schedule, just scan that QR code on your screen. That takes you to the SportsGrid app, which is free for both iOS and Android. The SportsGrid app can stream our shows 24 hours a day. 7 days a week. Thanks again to our director, Tommy, and thanks to Frank on the graphics, and thanks to, of course, our producer, Chris Kofsky. I'm Craig Mish. Enjoy the weekend and all the holiday festivities that may be in front of you, and I will see you on NewsWire Monday afternoon. Have a great weekend, everyone. I'll see you then.